Invasive species are also known as non-native or alien species, and what they do is they invade an area and then they kind of take over everything, and it's pretty crazy. So let's talk about how that happens. A few questions we have to address before we look at some examples. First, what is an invasive species? Now, an invasive species, in order to define that, first you have to know what a native species is. So native species normally live and thrive in an area, and they've been around for a really long time. And evolution, natural selection, has acted upon those species, so they are very well adapted to specific ecosystems and to interactions with other organisms in that ecosystem. So those are native species. An invasive species is introduced into a new area by humans, either deliberately or accidentally. And I'm realizing right here that this says neither, but let's make sure. Should be either, there we go, deliberately or accidentally. So that idea of interactions with humans is important. Accidentally, species can kind of hitchhike on boats and cars and on people themselves and luggage and crates. But why would we introduce an invasive species into a new ecosystem on purpose? Well, we might do this for food, medicine, bringing in natural pests or pest management, and sometimes economic products as well. So there are a lot of reasons that we might introduce a species into an environment. Now, why are invasive species a problem? It's because they have no natural predators or competitors, parasites or pathogens. Evolution has not acted upon those species within that ecosystem. So oftentimes they outcompete native species, and this can be a major problem. We're going to look at 3 different examples of invasive species now. One deliberately introduced invasive species is the kudzu vine. It's native to Japan, and it was first introduced into the southeastern United States in the 1800s, mostly to control soil erosion, and also as an ornamental plant. It grows incredibly quickly. Under the right conditions, it can grow up to a foot each day. Problem is, the vine takes over everything. So as you can see in this picture right here, the vine kind of wraps itself around other plants. It can cover everything on a hillside, which is why it was brought in for soil erosion. And if you leave your car sitting around too long, it could be covered in kudzu pretty soon. So one potential plan is that in Japan, kudzu starch is used as a food product. So kudzu could be harvested from the United States and sent to Japan, where it could be manufactured into starch. Another possibility is to make some paper out of kudzu, but these are still in early development. A second deliberately introduced invasive species is the African honeybee, introduced from Africa into Brazil. So this right here is showing us where it was first introduced into Brazil. The idea was to increase honey production. As we can see, it has spread throughout South America into Central America, and then this map down here is showing where the Africanized honeybee has been found in the southern United States. The problem with the African honeybee is that it takes over the native bees' hives, so they get displaced. A consequence of that is that honey supply has reduced. So as the bees move north into the United States, this is a problem. And because bees have such an important ecological role with pollination, this is definitely of some concern. And there's not really a plan right now to deal with these. Our third example of an invasive species is one that was accidentally introduced, and that's the Argentine fire ant, which we can see right here. It has this little stinger. Originally from Argentina, so we can see down here this map. The blue range is showing its native habitat, and then the pink areas is showing all of the places in the world where the Argentine fire ant is now found. In the United States, it was first introduced in Mobile, Alabama, they believe on shiploads of either lumber or coffee that were being sent from Argentina into Alabama. The effects of the Argentina fire ant is that 90% of native ant species are lost because the Argentina fire ant outcompetes those. They can kill organisms with their stings, as you can see in this picture. this person's hand was attacked by the Argentine fire ant, lots of painful little stings, not going to kill a full-grown human, but small organisms can be killed. They cause extensive damage to crops. They can destroy wires in buildings, so an infrastructure problem. It's estimated that the Argentine fire ant cost the United States $600 million per year. Okay? Wow, that's a lot of money from an invasive species. One potential plan is to bring in a tiny parasitic Brazilian fly that is a natural parasite of the Argentine fire ant in its native land, but you can imagine what some of the potential problems of this might be. So that is our quick introduction to invasive species.